Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We are your hosts, Leah and Michelle. It is the 21st of March, 2021. Spring is here. The daffodils in our yard have bloomed. You kind of look like a daffodil with your yellow. Really excited about today's show.
I am so pumped about today's show.
But we can't talk about it.
Well, no, we are going to talk about it. It's a big thing. There are a ton of YouTube videos up. I don't know how long they'll be up because the different speeches that people gave worldwide, it was so amazing. I mean, I've got videos up from South Africa, Bulgaria, New Zealand, tons from Australia, Canada, London, the list goes, Netherlands, Germany, Denmark. This was a massive worldwide protest. Everybody out in the streets. It was a thing, and we're
watching what you say.
We're watching what I say on YouTube. So, but what we're gonna do is, if you're just joining us, maybe you clicked on this, you want to know what was going on Saturday into Sunday around the world. Well, we're gonna play a few of those videos. And then you get to join us on other platforms to see the rest. It's kind of, and it's free. Okay, a lot of times people are like, if you want
the Mug Club for
with
Crowder and Blaze TV, you have to sign up for all that stuff. Here at Resistance Chicks, we ask you to follow us to our other platforms just so we can speak. It's free. It costs you nothing but a couple of clicks and a little bit of inconvenience because it's not as comfy to watch on the other platforms, but you can still watch.
I absolutely love. I watch War Room Pandemic back on Rumble all the time. I just go and find it. So the YouTube. What? Whoa, what's green?
Facebook.
Oh, what's our Facebook doing green?
I don't know.
What's going on? Can they hear us?
Well, it's only on my cell phone.
Okay. All right, so thousands and possibly tens of thousands of protesters across Europe, and even some in America. I didn't know much about it. I just knew in Europe.
If we hadn't known about it, we would have gone down to Kentucky where they were holding one.
Were they?
Yeah, not far. Well, I don't know. Kentucky's kind of big, but
marched Saturday against continued government lockdowns and other pandemic restrictions based on questionable science, which have resulted in mass unemployment, destroyed small businesses, stoked widespread depression and mental illness, and cost taxpayers trillions to keep the whole ship from sinking. Protesters from London, Germany, France, Sweden, the Netherlands, Australia. I love that they do the same thing we do. London, as in not the UK. And then Germany, Sweden, the Netherlands, Australia, Belgium, Japan, Vienna is not a country, and elsewhere, came out for the worldwide rally for freedom. In central London, thousands of anti-lockdown activists were seen walking through Hyde Park chanting, "Stand up and take our freedom."
Well, I want you guys to see this really quickly. Oh, wait, Leah's going to show you something.
That's okay.
I want to pause your video for just 1 second because I want to pull this up big. Pause your video. For you guys to read, we're going to cover up our faces. Okay. This is just a screenshot. That I took. There's even more. It was a square. I cut off places. Okay. I actually should probably go and I want to pull that one up on Twitter for you guys to see. Go ahead and play that, and I'm going to pull that up on Twitter really quick.
You're just watching the people walk here, stand up for our freedom. I'm not seeing a lot of masked people here. In the UK, I have to say that their spirit of protest is bigger than ours here in the United States. But also, their lockdowns are greater, and so they are affecting more of a rebellion.
Yeah.
Okay? Because hand it to Mike DeWine or whatever, all our businesses are open.
Right.
And while they have capacity limits, no one has I've never even seen anybody turned away from Walmart. Okay? No. I've never been into a store.
Right.
Somebody was turned away, and actually our extreme lockdowns with non-essential businesses being shut down in Ohio only lasted until like April of last year. Everything's been open since then. But in Canada and in other places, and in Michigan, like, so I don't know if Michiganders, they were pressed harder. There's a lady that they're rallying for even in Michigan where she was at a pizza restaurant and she's in jail right now for keeping her business open.
Oh, wow.
So where the Democrats are these really harsh lockdowns with no, well, okay, if you can wear a mask, then you can go in, right?
Yeah, right.
And so I think that that's what makes people rebel even harder. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to wear a mask, they're saying.
Right.
And I'm going to protest because you're being so restrictive.
Right.
And if they had just businesses open, it probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal. And I do think that around the world, I'm seeing more people stand up for different reasons around the world than I actually hear in America. So I'm not exactly sure how that plays out, but I'm very excited to see people standing up for their rights. Now, the one thing we're not
real quick, now that this is bigger, because this is such a big deal to me. Mm-hmm. Look, I'm gonna scroll down. We can't read them all. This is, when we say worldwide, look at that. Look at all of these places where this went on.
And
this is
the sad
gigantic
thing, and it's okay because we're going to talk about it on other platforms. The sad thing is that we have to watch what we're saying news-wise when there is a worldwide consensus on something.
Yeah.
And it's not in totalitarian taking other people's rights or freedoms away.
Yeah.
It's in freedom and liberty. It's in loving your neighbor. I have wonderful videos coming out of Australia and New Zealand. These people are just so smart. We have a huge crowd here in London saying, stop destroying our kids' lives. And that's the sign right here. That's what you're seeing. Shame on you. And here we have stand up, get your freedom back, burn your mask chants.
We can say all this on YouTube.
I don't know if the CDC and the WHO, it's a ad removed.
That's weird.
Yeah. Have said, you can't say anything against masks. It's the V word. It's the jab. Mm-hmm. They've kind of drawn the line at the jab. Now, we're not here to talk about what masks. We're here to report on.
All right. So 412 says, honestly, not to be Debbie Downer, but I think they're waiting for people to resist, and then they'll release the next phase, which will probably be a real danger.
In Germany, police used pepper spray on protesters in the city of Kassel, where 15,000 to 20,000 demonstrators showed up, according to the Daily Mail. Some 1,800 officers were placed on standby in Berlin. Several thousand people gathered in the main protest site on the square in Kassel City Center, packed closely together without wearing masks. The AFP reporter saw scuffles erupted when a group of demonstrators tried to break through a police cordon to join up with other protesters, resulting in shoving and prompting officers to use pepper spray, says the Daily Mail. And we can see some scuffles breaking out here in Germany.
There were a lot of scuffles that seems that broke out in Germany over this.
Yes. Every time I hear German
no, you and I are the same person. Leah and I literally are the same person. I was thinking as I was listening to that, because we've heard so many movies where Germans, and it's not our fault. We've been conditioned.
Every movie we've ever seen with Germans in it, Germans are the bad guys.
Right.
Has there ever been a good guy German movie?
So here's the deal. I think I have a leg to stand on here when I tell people I'm not racist. Because there are things that are conditioned in me that make me prejudiced. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to lie. And it's not that I'm against German people, but when I hear
the German voice,
especially in the tone where we're trying to command people to do something,
especially from a police officer,
you
don't know what they're saying.
Bristle, and you think we're going to the gulag.
Yeah.
and I think you're a bad guy.
Right.
Okay? Like, I can't help it.
Right.
It's just within me. And it's going to take a lot of deconditioning.
Hollywood, could you make some good German movies?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. So I know what it's like to feel prejudice, to have that within me.
But we don't have
that feeling towards really anything else.
My great grandmother came over from Germany.
I know.
She spoke German.
Right.
I am part German, so you can't throw that on me. Okay? So on my dad's side, we are 100% Scandinavian. My grandfather came over from Sweden. And he married my grandmother, who is Norwegian and Swedish. And then her parents came over from Norway and Sweden. Okay, so we're just 100% Scandinavian. On my mom's side, we have a lot of stuff going on, and don't know much about my grandfather, but my grandmother knows her history. And the Fankhausers, she came over. They were the Germans, and my mom's grandmother, so my great grandmother spoke fluent German. Mm-hmm. My mother's great grandma, I think it was my grandma's grandma who spoke just fluent German, not her mom, her grandmother,
right,
just spoke fluent German all the time. So my great grandma, I guess.
Yeah, because my grandma has two sides. She has the Irish on one side and the German
and the
on
Dyers. So we're Irish, so we can't be prejudiced, or I'm sorry, because that's us. And so, anyways, all right, that's another side of the story.
I just thought it was funny as we both heard the accent in the authoritarian.
It would be the same thing if Sweden had started to take over the world. It would still bristle. But the only Swedish we've ever heard was our grandfather or the Swedish chef.
It wouldn't bristle.
You don't think so?
No, I'm only conditioned to that because of things I have watched on television.
No, that's what I'm saying. If Sweden had been the one to do worldwide domination and they had movies done in Swedish, then you would, even though I'm Swedish, I would still bristle at the Swedish accent.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm saying we've been conditioned. You're right. It doesn't matter where it would have been. We've just been conditioned.
All right.
But I haven't been conditioned to be racist against people by the color of their skin.
No.
I would feel that.
I know.
I don't feel it. I feel this.
I know. 1, 2, 3, schnell, raus. We used to watch a Hogan's Heroes.
You just went 1, 2, 3, hurry.
Yeah, let's go. All right. Dune cough.
You do not call names.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch gears. We are going to come back to, I have a full lineup. Pretty much most of my show is, I'm going to show you, I have some awesome videos from YouTube on this. But I'm going to wait on that because I want to delve into that, and I don't want to have to am I saying the right thing?
So I have this saying the right thing. You want me to play it for them to see it a little bit better.
I guess you can play one because I was just getting ready to switch gears, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Hang on. We're on the wrong thing here.
Switching the gears.
Here we go.
Here it comes.
Let's go, yes, Melvin! The time has come! The big lie is coming to an end!
So I guess the next one is Germany? Either Netherlands or Germany. Translation on that, anybody?
Where is
Amsterdam. So veterans form a line of defense here in Amsterdam.
Nice. See, that didn't bother me so much.
And then down, the Netherlands is different than Germany. Okay, Japan is out in force.
Go Japan. Come on, Japan. Look at that.
Don't know what they're saying. I don't speak Japanese.
But I'm with it.
you go down. Vienna, Austria.
They go. They go. We're going. They go.
Maybe don't read so much commentary.
No commentary. We're still on YouTube. I just said, here they go. They're going. They went.
Die treffen gleich, die treffen gleich. Achtung.
Is that a water cannon? No, that's like mace. Ooh, there goes the it burns.
Hat mich erwischt. Tränengas.
I don't want to be pepper sprayed. Ever.
And then Belgium.
Oh, look at that. I'm not supposed to commentate. Look at the people. Is that a word? Commentate? Comment? No, it's not a word.
No, I don't think that
not-
commentate is a word.
Is that
All
it
right.
for this article?
All right, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch gears here. I'm going to cover some other UK Euro news, and then we're going to come back to more. We're going to delve into some really cool videos that people took. We have one here from Quebec. We'll show that one later. All right. So 94% of foreign minors identified by the Paris police are actually adults. After setting up a fingerprint database in cooperation with North African countries, the Paris Police Prefecture positively identified 229 minor migrants, of which 216 revealed to be adults. The Directorate of Security of the Paris metropolitan area implemented the system 15 months ago in cooperation with authorities in Algeria, Morocco, and Tanzania, and have requested identification for 939 migrants over that period. Of the 229 underage migrants positively identified, 94% of them were actually adults. Those whose identities were confirmed were, and they're from Algeria, Morocco, and Tanzania. Crime perpetrated by alleged unaccompanied minor migrants has become an increasing trend in Paris and other cities across France. According to statistics from the DSPA, unaccompanied minors from North Africa were implicated in various crimes about 8,000 times in 2020, increasing 20% from 2019. An estimated 1,000 minor migrants reside in Paris and account for 28% of all minor offenders in the city of 2020. So 1,000 minor migrants represent 28% of all minor offenders. Just 1,000 of them.
Wow.
In the city in 2020, up from 17% in 2018. The Paris Prosecutor's Office notes that many also lie about their identities, how old they really are. And it comes days after French politicians Jean-Francois Eliou and another guy presented a report that revealed up to 75% of underage migrant crime in Paris involves suspects from just 3 North African countries. Mostly young men from Maghreb countries distinguish themselves from other MNAs by chaotic migration routes that are particularly traumatic, and then by a life of wandering once they arrive in France. Often victims of trafficking networks, and we talk about this all the time. They are delinquents, and some are drug addicts. There's a local security in Paris metropolitan area told the La Figaro that many of the migrants commit basic thefts such as jewelry or mobile phones to support their drug addictions, as well as to
Why do they have
for
drug
designer
addictions though?
as well as for designer clothing.
They've got an addiction for designer clothing, or
I don't know. Algerian, Morocco, and Tanzanian migrants were arrested 1,600 times in case of burglary in Paris in 2020 alone. I'm just throwing this out there because it is a crisis. But here we have in the UK, refugees applying via the legal routes to be given automatic settlement in the UK. Migrants who, and so Boris Johnson has shown to be a better Labour Party leader than what's his face?
Jeremy Corbyn.
Jeremy Corbyn could ever have been. He is more woke than Jeremy Corbyn, I believe.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
He is, and here's the thing, Jeremy Corbyn wouldn't be a tool. His brother has shown, Pierce Corbyn, that they are more of the kind of the anti whatever. Like, I don't know. I know that Jeremy Corbyn, he's a communist and things like that, but he's not in on the global reset. Like, he's too below them.
No,
I don't know how to explain it.
What we've talked about here on the show is, interestingly, in the UK, in order to have the views that Jeremy Corbyn has, he's the equivalent, for those of you that are watching, you're just joining Resistance Chicks recently, you haven't been along with us, and you don't understand the politics in the UK, the Labour Party is the equivalent of the Democrats, and the Conservative parties, the Tories, is obviously like the Republicans. So Jeremy Corbyn is a progressive, actually communist, but in order to have his views, he has to be a populist.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't jive with globalism, because he actually was pro-Brexit in the beginning. Because he wanted to, it's like this. I want to rule the UK. I don't want the world to rule the UK. I want to rule the UK. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to rule the UK people. I don't want the world to rule the UK people.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had to kind of switch to kind of keep in line with where his party was going, which is the global, reset and all of that.
I am so suspicious the fact that he's gone. He's off the scene. He was the major player. He and Theresa May would go at it. And
it's like you just said, though, they don't need him now, because
the UK
Boris can play both sides.
The UK citizens have been duped beyond measure.
Right.
And Nigel Farage tried to save you all. He created the Brexit Party, and he was going to run, and he wanted, but the Conservatives and the Tories were too afraid that they would split the vote.
Right.
And so they voted for all these Tories. They voted for Brexit. They voted for a Nigel Farage type sanity. And that was what they were hoping. They had an 80-seat majority. They could run the clock on everything conservative. And they were able to out Theresa May, who, I guarantee you, is not as woke as Boris Johnson, and would not have done, I don't think she would have done the craziness that Boris Johnson has done.
But by keeping us, and I say us because I feel this way, by keeping us in the European Union, which essentially and effectively is what she would have done if she had remained prime minister, then it really wouldn't have mattered, because you would have the EU ruling the UK, whereas Boris Johnson was like, it's kind of like a sleight of hand, where he said, look, you're going to get your freedom here, but it's okay because I'm going to take it over here.
But and it was this mass immigration that he wanted to curb, and Priti Patel came. She was supposedly this strong.
Right.
We're gonna curb this, and the words. Here's the thing: they lie.
They lie.
And if they had just, and this is why I have always appreciated Donald Trump, because when it comes to his policies, he says what he means. But you don't know what Boris Johnson's thinking.
Oh, absolutely
You
not.
have no idea what Priti Patel's thinking. You have no idea. This government, they went from, we're just going to let it ride, to we're going to lock you down as hard as we can.
And that's why they were so upset at Donald Trump. You know why? Because they wouldn't have cared if he had his own nefarious, secretive thing that was opposite of theirs. As long as you agree that we are the elites and we keep secrets from the little people, and we do not tell them what we're really thinking, then we're actually on the same team, even if we're thinking different things. But because he was upfront and honest, that is what went against the grain.
So I guess asylum seekers in the UK deemed to have fled conflict or persecution who apply for refugee status via a safe and legal resettlement route will be given indefinite leave to remain. Before these changes, refugees were granted 5 years to live in the UK before applying for this indefinite leave to remain. Current British government guidance on the indefinite leave to remain states that for those with the immigration status, there is no longer any time limit on your ability to stay in the UK, and that residents are regarded as settled in the UK. Those with the IRL are free to work, study, and access the NHS services for free. with reports saying the plans are aimed at refugees having the stability to build long-term lives in the UK. The government is also proposing making family reunification of refugees, chain migration, way easier. Asylum seekers will be asked to make refugee applications overseas before arriving in the UK. They will be asked, but this doesn't mean that that's going to be a thing.
They'll still be
Priority will be
accepted.
given to asylum seekers in conflict zones rather than those already in safe European countries. Home Secretary Priti Patel, according to Sky News, says, "Our new plan for immigration will make big changes, building a new system that is fair but firm, and we will continue to encourage asylum via safe and legal routes, whilst at the same time toughening our stance towards illegal entry and the criminals that endanger life by enabling it. Not all these reforms will happen overnight, blah, 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 blah." And then Boris Johnson is making waves for saying that anybody who's been in your country illegally should get amnesty if they have not committed a crime. He's calling for just vast amnesty. Well, when Ronald Reagan did that here in the United States, it just caused another group, because you're just waiting for the amnesty, right?
Yeah.
From Breitbart News, Boris Johnson has again raised his support for amnesty for illegal immigrants in remarks branded deeply irresponsible by Migration Watch UK. This week, the Prime Minister did not deny reports that the Home Office was considering sending asylum seekers offshore while their claims are processed in order to deter illegal migration. However, he added that he was behind granting amnesty to migrants who illegally entered the country some time ago, and if they are otherwise law-abiding. According to The Sun, "I think when people have been here for a very long time and haven't fallen foul of the law, then it makes sense to try to regularize their status, which actually is pretty much what happens under the existing rules." The Home Office itself, this is Mehmet, chairman of the mass migration skeptic think tank Migration Watch UK. The Home Office itself has said that the recurrent amnesties only encourage more illegal immigration and try to come. And
The thing that's so disturbing to me about what's happening in the UK and in other countries across Europe with the migration is, like, the UK is not a big country.
Mm-hmm.
You can only handle so much. We keep saying that about the United States and the migrants coming from the southern border, but our country's pretty vast. If we had to make room for a lot of people, in fact, if we had to make room for most of them, it would be tight, but we could do it.
Yeah.
Okay? You guys just can't. Have you seen your streets? Okay? I mean, you've got I bring this up a lot because Horatio's an architect, but you've got the little, you can't remodel these old buildings without having these, not police, but the little, heritage police, where you have to, integrity, you have to retain the integrity. Like, when you have this many people rushing in, you need new builds. You gotta take over stuff. Old stuff's you're not gonna have room for these people. So that's where I'm kind of like, you said this the other day on the show. You're like, this is one of those things where I still don't quite understand
the angle, the globalist
angle behind it, other than to cause chaos and disruption, and if you irritate society, it's a recipe for an explosion.
I still don't know. But we have some Hungary.
Instability.
Hungary looks to create a new right-wing political group inside European Union. Budapest, Hungary. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said Friday he will soon meet with other right-leaning politicians from Poland and Italy to discuss setting up a new nationalist political force in Europe. In an interview with state radio, the populist leader said he was in touch with Polish Prime Minister Morawiecki, I think that's how I say it, and the Italian former Interior Minister Salvini, whose parties are ideological allies of Orban's Fidesz party. Poland, Italy, and Hungary will try to reorganize the European right wing, and we will soon see each other and plan for the future. Orban's interview came only a day after Fidesz pulled out of the European People's Party, the EPP, its center-right European political family, following years of conflict over Hungary's respect for democratic norms and the rule of law. Supposedly, the EPP has accused Orban of abandoning Christian democratic principles in favor of his own self-styled illiberal democracy, while Orban says the EPP has become an annex of the left on issues like migration and national sovereignty. Fidesz has led Hungary's government with an almost uninterrupted supermajority since 2010, but will face 6 united opposition parties in national elections next year in the most significant challenge to his power in a decade. With Fidesz's 11 lawmakers in the European Parliament currently without a caucus, some observers have speculated that the party could seek a new home with the European Conservatives and Reformists, the ECR, alongside Poland's Eurosceptic Law and Justice Party, or I don't know if you want to call them the far-right Identity and Democracy ID, of which Salvini's Lega is a member. Breitbart's articles are so incredibly intense that they go like, it's almost like a left person on the left writes the articles, and I think that they do that because they were so blacklisted that they want to, like we do, to be on social media.
Right.
So they used to go hard, and you know, a lot of their articles are so placid now. They're just almost like almost like what we do on YouTube, but like far worse, because they give a far left spin. When you say that Matteo Salvini, who actually has socialist policies, is far right, where is the far right? At what point are you labeling them as racist? What is your definition of far right? Because we don't have the same definitions. Because to me, on the right leaning, we have less government, less taxes, less social programs.
I'll tell you what
Salvini
it is.
promotes more social programs than anybody, and than any Republican in the United States.
It boils down to this, Leah. It's actually pretty simple. Far right is populist. Far left is globalist. It's that simple. It no longer has anything to do with socioeconomic policies at all. And I'm talking whether you're here in the United States. We like to claim whether we're Republican or conservative, or we're a Democrat or liberal, whatever you want to call yourself. Those above you laugh at that. Because we have conservatives that are globalists.
Right.
And as on the world stage, they would be seen as far left. And then we have someone like a Tulsi Gabbard, who is a socialist, kind of wants some communist stuff too, a little bit, but she doesn't want a big global takeover. Okay. So then she might be considered far right. Okay, so it literally boils down to it. We need to understand what their definition is.
Well, when
their definition is far right is populist. You love your country and you fight for your country. Individuality,
freedom,
yes.
Liberty.
That's it. It doesn't have anything to do with food stamps.
Right. Exactly.
Or abortion.
Right. Okay. So, but Orban's statement suggests he is planning for a new right-wing grouping on the European level, and allies in Poland and Italy have indicated they may be on board. The Law and Justice member, Czarnecki, a member of the European Parliament, said he favors formal cooperation between his party and Fidesz within a single political faction. I do not know if it will happen, but you should definitely look for what connects and not what divides. In a video interview posted on his Facebook page earlier this month, Salvini, who shares Orban's firm opposition to immigration, confirmed that he was in discussions with politicians from Poland and Hungary on creating a new faction within the EU legislature. We are working to create something new because a certain type of Europe with an outdated mindset is unable to respond to the emergencies and the needs of 2021. In February, Orban authored a letter to Giorgia Meloni, president of the ECR and leader of Italy's Nationalist Brothers of Italy party, urging increased cooperation with Fidesz based on the policy of common sense as well as on Christian and conservative values. We need reliable battle comrades who have common vision of the world and give similar answers to the challenges of our times. The European Union has taken legal action against both Hungary and Poland in recent years over perceived threats to judicial independence. They were literally trying to get out the old communist judges. And I don't believe I have the article up. I was going to, but there's a female, a doctor in Salvini's party, who's in the European Parliament, who has taken issue with the fact that the European Union wants to get rid of the terms mother and father and replace them with parent.
Right.
And they're looking at trying to get rid of the terms male and female.
Just like in
And
the house
and
here.
to say that you would like to keep the terms mother and father, the mass of hysteria, and like even on YouTube might even be like, well, you're far right. What world did I transplant myself into?
Right.
Where it's no longer acceptable to use the terms mother and father.
We're going to have to rewrite every language learning.
What are you going to do with the Catholic Church? How do you say the Our Father and call the Mother Mary? Parent Mary, Parent God. You can't say I guess it'd be our parent who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. I can't even come.
I don't think these people
You can't
pray.
even say the Hail Marys, I'm sure, anymore, because that's talking to your mother. So you just have to be like, Hail person, that, you know, there's a big Catholic presence there in Europe. And so I just wonder how they're going to react to that. No mother, no father in Parliament. And they're taking the cues from the Democrats here. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, they have removed the terms mother and father and male and, I don't know, sister and brother. And then she goes and she says, my mother, and she uses the same, they call them gendered terms. No, you have a mom, you have a dad. Mi madre, mi padre.
Are they really enforcing
Like,
that in
hello.
the House, though?
I have no idea.
Because you wouldn't be able to give a speech without using him, her, he,
Like, if
his.
I can't be on a social media platform and say that it's crazy to say mom and dad, then I can't be there. Okay, my buddies could just be gone.
Right.
Like, there are places that I draw the line. Like, I not that I understand, but like, the religion that shall not be named and taking the jab. I'm like, I'll try to go around those, okay? Because honestly, there are people in my circle who have taken the jab, and it's not, but they aren't going to take away mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there are points of contention that we should be allowed to talk about,
Right.
and then this is not a point of contention. Mom and dad.
This is a point of insanity.
And I will not go down the road of insanity.
Okay, so again, for our commercial break, where we like to consistently bring it back to hope and not going down like despair, because when you think about this stuff, you think, oh my gosh, we have gone to the depths. I'm telling you guys, and I'm going to keep repeating it for as long as it takes until we see, until you are able to see it with your physical eyes, what I already see with my spiritual eyes. The crazier this stuff gets, the more we know God is
We're
moving.
winning.
We are winning. They are writhing in pain, and their only recourse is to do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We are winning. Okay? Christianity is winning. The gospel is spreading like wildfire even now, and there is no other recourse that the devil has other than this crazy stuff. So it should speak to you, and it should tell you that the devil is losing.
Yeah.
The crazier this stuff gets. And I know that seems like backwards thinking. It's not.
No, and I don't want to be the yin to Michelle's yang here, but in Canada, a man has been jailed after misgendering his daughter.
I'm not saying that this stuff is God, that it's happening. It's
No,
still
I
the
know.
devil. What
I
I'm
know.
saying is, the stronger God gets, the wider the devil wails, and his punches are going to land on this dad in Canada.
Right.
Right? But that doesn't mean
Yeah.
that God's not winning and bigger, and the as a whole.
Well,
We're
the reason
advancing.
I bring this is because even Democrats, lefties, labor people would say, well, you shouldn't jail somebody for that.
Right.
Okay? That's why I bring them up, because sane people can say, you know,
No, we have to talk about it. And
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, as you listen to these stories, this is how I want you to translate it in your head. Like, oh my gosh, if that, and this is scriptural, and I've used the scripture on air, and I don't know where it is off the top of my head because I'm not one of those people. I'm sorry.
Huh.
You have a news commentator hosts. You don't have a robot. I'm not Rain Man.
We don't have
Okay?
like a screen to read.
All right, I don't know exactly where
Somebody
the script is.
said, I remember somebody said you say too many ums and you just need to type it all out and read it.
No thanks.
How many of you want to
Our
watch
viewers
that?
don't want to watch that. But my point is, there is a scripture that says the more that God advances, I'm paraphrasing here, the wilder the devil is like crazy.
yeah.
So you can tell exactly
Yeah.
that. That's why I'm like, oh my gosh, this
Yeah.
is crazy stuff.
Yep.
That means that God is moving. That's what
Right.
it tells me. It's kind of like when you see the wind blowing really, really hard,
Right.
you know a giant storm is coming. So
Right.
the wind is blowing and you're going, oh gosh, here comes the God storm.
Right. A Canadian father has been arrested for misgendering his own 14-year-old daughter by calling her his daughter and referring to her with the pronouns
Arrested.
she and her.
Arrested.
Robert Hoogland, the father of a 14-year-old biological female who identifies as transgender, and we do know that the numbers are somewhere astronomical of especially the females who detransition in their 20s.
Right.
Because girls are going through puberty and they don't understand things, and it's just a big mess. And prefers male pronouns, was found in contempt of court and jailed on Tuesday after repeatedly calling his child his daughter, despite the court forbidding it. The Attorney General of British Columbia reportedly issued a warrant for his arrest of contempt. Rob Hoogland was taken to jail. His crime, trying to protect his little girl from medical harm. I stand with Robert Hoogland. Children cannot consent to puberty blockers. Children can't even consent to they can't buy cigarettes. They can't get tattoos. Children can't even go to the bathroom in public high school without a pass from an adult saying it's okay for you to go to the bathroom.
Right.
Hoogland is opposed to his teenage daughter going through transgender-related medical procedures, and has repeatedly expressed his opposition in the hopes of saving his child from irreversible damage. There are so many YouTubes now of girls who have gone through these things. Some of them have had their ovaries removed. Some of them have had their breasts removed.
Oh my gosh.
They have had genitalia surgeries, and they come out of it and they're like, who was here to protect me? And it's absolutely crazy because they have banned and outlawed conversion therapy for gay kids, right? But they haven't banned or outlawed this. This is a conversion therapy. This is conversion therapy.
Right.
Okay, you think that you're this person? Well, we will give you medical therapy for it. It's
Well, the thing that's disturbing to me about this dad being arrested, if I would be totally against it regardless, no matter what, but if he was physically withholding his daughter from receiving these treatments, I could almost see the court having grounds to arrest him.
yeah.
But let's reverse this a second. Let's say that a parent calls their child fat. Let's say that a parent who has a child that was born biologically male is abusive and makes fun of their son and calls him a her all of the time, right? Would they arrest a father or a mother for saying those things? Can you arrest a father for calling their son fat?
No, I've never heard of that.
So why is this any different? It makes me angry because there are parents that are this abusive.
Extremely abusive.
That would abuse their children verbally. I'm sure many of you in the chat probably had a parent that was abusive. Okay? And said things
Called
that
you
were
things
hurtful.
that you were not.
Called you, even if you were overweight, to make fun of that, right? Where was the government to protect you then?
Or a father who might say to his son, "You're such a girl."
Why did the government not step in, and why isn't the government stepping in to protect those children? Because it's not about protecting children. It's about pushing an ideology.
So Jordan Peterson, I don't know if a couple years ago, we covered him testifying on this bill in Canada called Bill C-16. And he says, "This could never happen," said those who called my stance against Bill C-16 alarmist. "I read the law and I saw that it was, to the contrary, inevitable. inevitable. Hoogland had previously discovered that his daughter's school had been showing her sexual and gender identity education materials known as SOGI 123, which the report referred to as transgender propaganda videos. By the 7th grade, the school had changed his daughter's name in the yearbook without telling her parents and socially transitioned her with the input of gender ideologue psychologist Wallace Wong, who advised the pubescent child to take testosterone.
Oh my gosh.
Those people need to never be around kids again. To show them videos,
This is called brainwashing.
But it's sexual.
It's abuse.
This is sexual abuse.
Yeah, it's pedophilia.
What else would you be showing them? Your gender is your sexuality.
Yeah.
It's your body parts.
Right.
They're talking about your sexuality and your body parts
Right.
in school
Right.
without your parents there.
Yeah.
This cannot be okay. He's not some psychologist. The report adds that Wong referred to Hoogland's daughter to the endocrinology unit at the local hospital and that a treatment plan was put into action on her first visit.
Wow.
Here I am sitting there as a parent watching a perfectly healthy child be destroyed, and there's nothing I can do but sit on the sideline. And according to Justice Bowden at the time, cheer it on. Hoogland said in an interview last year, I can only affirm or get thrown into jail. Justice Bowden of the British Columbia Supreme Court had reportedly declared that Hoogland and his wife had to affirm their daughter's new gender identity. Hoogland was told that if he tried to dissuade his daughter or refer to her as a female, then he would be considered guilty of family violence. After the ruling, Hoogland gave an interview to the Federalist in which he lamented the situation and pointed out that his daughter is biologically female. After that, Justice Mazzari reportedly signed a protection order authorizing the police to arrest Hoogland if he were again to be caught referring to his daughter as a female or with female pronouns. Hoogland said that the Mazzari ruling even stated that he was allowed to think thoughts that he wasn't.
Right.
He was allowed to think thoughts that were contrary to the Bowden ruling. The court was gracious enough to say that he could not police my thoughts. All you could do was think it, but you couldn't say it. In January of last year, the highest court in British Columbia reportedly declared that the child should continue taking testosterone and imposed a conduct order on Hoogland, mandating that he continue to refer to his daughter by male pronouns. They've now created a delusion, and they're forcing parents like myself to live in this delusion. And then what happens when the bubble explodes and the delusion ends? She can never go back to being a girl. I mean, she'll always be a girl, but she'll never go back to being a girl in a healthy body that she should have had. She won't be able to have children. She won't be able to have a family. These kids don't understand what this stuff means.
So I want to insert something here, and my heart breaks.
Wait, here's this. An estimation of more than 80% of children with gender dysphoria will end up desisting from their belief that they have the opposite sex once puberty is over. We have to recognize that going through the transition of puberty is confusing. And 80% of kids who have questions, because kids are a little bit gender neutral. Why? Because they haven't, it's called puberty for a reason. I don't know why I have to be like all sciencey about this, right? Okay. Health class was supposed to teach you that you develop sexual organs and hormones and things like that they create. You know, females go through a reproduction explosion and males go through a reproduction explosion and different things happen, and you learn about it in health class, or you should have. But while this is happening, it can be a confusing time. We've seen it in all the coming of age movies. The little girl is playing with the little boy, and they're pretty much just gender neutral in a way. And then as the girl develops and the boy develops, they realize something is different here. Okay? Something has changed.
It's so beautiful.
Thank you. All right. Well, sometimes based on the world, that's something that's beautiful in this change. It's scary and it's messed up and you don't know what's going on, but you have to make it through to the other side before you can decide that I don't want it. You don't know what you're missing until you have it.
Read what he says here in a second.
Go ahead, read it.
what kind of father would I be if, let's say, in 5 or 10 years and my daughter is detransitioning and she turns to me and says, why did none of you do anything to stop this?
Right.
I was a child. None of you stuck your neck out for me back then.
Yeah.
When my daughter asks me that question, I'll say, I did everything that I possibly could. I have goosebumps. So
He
here's
says, what kind of kid who's 13 is thinking about having a family and having a children?
right.
And having children.
Right.
He's trying to protect his own daughter to be able to have a natural family. And these people are out there saying, we want to rip your organs out of your body before you're 18.
It's satanic, but it is also about depopulation. A lot. They're using this as forced sterilization.
Mm-hmm.
Every child that they transition is essentially a forced sterilization.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's abusive and it's awful. But what I was about to say earlier is, as much as my heart breaks for this guy, and it totally, totally does, this is why the public school system is so evil. This is also why raising your children in the city is also evil. This is why we are massive proponents of God's perfect and beautiful design to live on your own land and have a farm and raise your animals and grow your crops and keep your children and raise them in the light and love of God. Because as soon as you go into what we refer to from the Pilgrim's Progress, the city of destruction, and you think to yourself, I can raise my children in the city of destruction and it will be fine. It's not fine. The only reason that she ended up questioning her gender, and the only reason it has gotten this far, and the only reason that he has been arrested, is not because of this bill. It's because his daughter was in a public school setting outside of his loving, nurturing, control. Because it doesn't matter if you think that you have a tight relationship with your kid when they come home from school and on the weekends. The public school has control of your child and their friends. It's Lord of the Flies, which is why it's not just enough to pull your kids from the public school and still let them hang out with the neighborhood kids. I don't care if I sound like some super hyper protectionist person. This world will eat you alive unless you, as the Bible says, come out from amongst them and be separate. So whatever you can do with the situation that you have, if you live in an apartment and all you could do is at least pull your kid from public school, do that. You're like, Michelle, I can't move to a farm. I don't care. Don't move to the farm. Pull your kid from public school and pray. And then God will lead you to the next step of getting out from these corrupt cities. Wherever you live around the world, this must be your end goal, to protect your children.
We are going to talk about Pastor James Coates, who has been released, and then we're going to flip over. And we're going to leave YouTube because I want to show you guys some more of these videos from the lockdown protests. Pastor James Coates to be released. I'm actually very excited about this. We've been covering him, so there's an update here.
I love it.
Pastor James Coates of Edmonton's Grace Life Church is set to be released in the next few days. And I when was this article? March 17th. After the Crown prosecutors have agreed to withdraw all but one of his charges related to keeping his church open during the province's COVID lockdown. According to his legal representation from the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, the Justice Center will defend Pastor Coates on one remaining charge of violating an order of the Chief Medical Officer of Health by challenging the lawfulness of the public health order that he is charged with violating. The pastor of Grace Life Church, who we showed you his church near Edmonton, has been incarcerated in the Edmonton Remand Center for a month since February 16th. It is expected that Pastor Coates could be released from jail as early as Friday. Pastor Coates was arrested by authorities in Alberta after he allowed and led services at Grace Life in contravention of the province's restrictions on public gatherings. Currently, Alberta is only allowing religious gatherings to operate at 15% of the building. Capacity code. Refusing to adhere to the capacity limitations and not forcing congregants to wear masks eventually led to a $1,200 fine and subsequent surveillance by the Alberta government officials. Ultimately, Grace Life received an executive order to close the church from the province's chief medical officer. February 7th, Pastor Coates was arrested in his office, though he was released. Following his release, the pastor then returned to holding services the next weekend. February 14th, as he had been doing, and once more run afoul of the police, Pastor Coates was asked to turn himself in and did so on February 14th. Pastor Coates would have been placed in custody at Edmonton's Remand Center, a maximum security prison, despite the province previously releasing low-risk offenders due to COVID-19 concerns. The pastor remained behind bars. The pastor was presented with bail terms that, according to his lawyer, he couldn't follow in good conscience. Protesters demonstrated in support of Pastor Coates, and more churches opened to show in solidarity and defiance against the pastor's detention and the restrictions on religious gatherings. In spite of Pastor Coates being behind bars, Grace Live continued on, as it had when he was leading services, with his supporters vowing to continue to have a new pastor each week if necessary, should the government continue to arrest the church leaders. The next legal hurdle for Pastor Coates was a bail hearing to determine whether the requirements of the pastor were excessive or appropriate. Justice Peter Michelin deemed that they were excessive and that the pastor was expected to remain
in the remand center
until they were okay until May, despite the fact that the potential punishment he could receive would actually not result in jail time. So the punishment he would receive wouldn't result in any jail time, but he had to remain in jail until he could receive the punishment. But there's no jail time for violating these COVID restrictions.
Isn't that
There's no jail time, but he was still arrested.
Well, it's good news that the other charges were dropped. So that these, like, what they're probably fines, essentially, the punishments. That's all they're probably going to be.
I think we have a video here.
Oh, let me play that over here.
Okay.
That's on the Rebel News article.
It should be up in my second. You don't have, it doesn't look like you have it up.
There it is right there. Right?
No.
You said you just clicked on something.
There's another video.
But you just clicked on something.
I know. I had it up. I had another article up. And is it the next one right next to it? Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Let's switch over gears here. And we will listen. Nope, not that.
Isn't that pretty? We took that picture. We were there. I want to go back.
I do too. Wendy, I'm going to answer your question here in a little bit on Periscope after we watch this.
Censorship.
They couldn't just keep their mouths shut. If they didn't have the strength of moral conviction that Pastor Coates and his congregation have every single week, because every single one of those congregants, when they walk in the doors, they're also risking a $1,200 fine. They couldn't, these other pastors, they couldn't just shut their mouths. They had to actually speak up and renounce Pastor James while he was languishing in a maximum security prison, while his wife was raising 2 little kids alone. Thank goodness for that church community that rallied around her, because, I mean, just imagine, Ezra, think about your own wife. If you were in jail for a month alone with your kids, thank goodness she had that loving church community to take care of her.
Sheila Gunn-Reid, Chief Reporter, how you doing out west there?
I'm ecstatic.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
I'm so ecstatic. I sort of, unlike other reporters, I do get emotionally invested in my stories, because we are talking to people sometimes on their very worst days
I can, but
ever.
This will work better.
And for the last 5 weeks, I've been in Grace Life Church with these wonderful people who have just welcomed me with open arms, and you, Ezra, and other members of our team too. They've been so gracious and so kind, and truly just the face of resiliency. And I hope we all find this strength of moral conviction that I see every Sunday in that church. And they persevered for the last, I guess, nearly 5 weeks. It's been 4 weeks. I guess it's today, a month today.
Yeah, I think so.
Because, when Pastor Coates turned himself in, and he's going to be released with, I guess, just $100 out of pocket, besides the 1 month of his life that the province has stolen from him for the crime of saying service and not turning away 85% of his congregation.
Yeah, it's an absolute disgrace that the province of Alberta jailed a pastor for a month. It was shocking to me to hear from his wife that she has not been allowed to visit him at all, and that their video calls are extremely limited. It's shocking that he's in a maximum security prison. Every aspect of that is shocking. I guess the most shocking but least surprising, if it's possible to be shocking but not surprising, would be that the rest of the media, the rest of the clergy in Canada, the church leaders of every denomination, the rabbis, the Hindu temples, Sikh temples, Jewish synagogues, Muslim imams, the Canadian Council of Bishops or whatever it's called, the evangelical, the Pentecostal, where were they all when a pastor was in prison for opening a church? Their silence condemns them. And
true.
I'm ashamed of any church leader who was silent. And as you reported to me, and as I heard, some churches actually sided with the government and said, he's wrong. What a disgrace they are, Sheila.
Yeah, they are. They couldn't just keep their mouths shut. If they didn't have the strength of moral conviction that Pastor Coates and his congregation have every single week, because every single one of those congregants, when they walk in the doors, they're also risking a $1,200 fine. They couldn't, these other pastors, they couldn't just shut their mouths. They had to actually speak up and renounce Pastor James while he was languishing
it's like a
in
bad
a maximum
movie.
security
It is.
prison. While his
It's
wife
like all the end
was
times movies
raising
that
two
we
little
watch.
kids
I
alone.
know.
Thank goodness for that church community that rallied around her, because I
Okay,
mean,
go ahead and
just
stop that
imagine,
there.
Ezra, think
We're
about your
going to
own
sign
wife.
off here from YouTube. Guys, find us, come join us here for the last 20 minutes or so on DLive, Periscope, and Facebook. If you're watching us on BitChute or Rumble, you're seeing the whole thing. You're not going anywhere. Remember, guys,
I have the link to our website in the description on the YouTube video. All you have to do is follow that, and you can choose which platform you want to go and watch us at, and just click on the link, whether it's Facebook, DLive, Twitch, or Periscope. So speaking of Periscope, before we can expound on that, let me end our